I'm just testing my microphone. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, John, we can hear you.
Thank you.
everybody.
Hi, Carmel.
Hi, can you hear me? It's Marion. Yeah? Okay. Perfect.
Marion, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm not gonna be able to sign off my computer for at least another 10 minutes, so I'm on with my phone. Can you hear me? John? Hello? I'm not hearing them. I can't hear them.
Marion, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know if he wanted me to call to order public safety or not.
Yes, I did call to order public safety. The first item is a presentation from our police traffic department on excessive speed. And Ms. Porterfield, you can take the screen and share some information that you
Okay.
have.
Well,
And we also have our police department online also. So
okay,
please
so
unmute yourself.
all right. Mr. Mudavarian, I'm not at this moment. I'm just on the phone, so I'm not going to be able to share my screen for a few minutes. So I get in front of my computer. So I'd like to talk about first of all the excessive speed. And at the last meeting, the mayor said that he would have the police department on the line to discuss what measures are being taken. As I stated at the last meeting, we are having this excessive speed problem throughout the city, not just any specific community or any specific street. I'm hearing from people all over the city, as I'm sure other council members are as well. And the 30-mile-an-hour speed limits are not being observed. And in addition to that, there's 15 miles per hour during the school in the school zones, and I see that the police did put up these um, machine signs that let you know how fast you're going. And generally, I'm seeing people at 31 miles an hour, which is double what is in that particular area. So I just would like to know what measures are being taken by the police department to deal with these issues, or if they've had any complaints about that. Is the police department on the line?
Yes, we are. I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that. I heard the last part with the question, but we missed the first part of what you were saying.
Okay. What I was saying is that we're getting numerous complaints about speeding throughout the city, not in any particular neighborhood, but in various neighborhoods. I can tell you about one particular neighborhood where people are coming off of 890 and going down California Avenue. And, we had a resident come to see us at the Green Market who just told us how they're just speeding right through, especially if the light happens to be green there and not red. So, and again, it's all over the city. I also mentioned that there was up near the school, the Keene School, there was a sign to let people know how fast they were going. The speed limit at that area is 15 miles per hour. And you would see that some people were going as fast as 31 miles an hour, which is twice what is allowed there. So I just wanted to know what measures were being taken in terms of the excessive speed throughout the city, or even if that's been a problem that the police have been hearing about.
Okay, so we hear speeding complaints regularly. That's what we have 3 traffic signs out in school areas right now. Actually, make that 4. We have the speed trailer as well that flashes and has the school speed limits on it. So I have not seen any upticks in calls to us anyway for speeding. We deal with them. We get them regularly. We get some through the request tracker online. We get calls to our department, officer flagged down, but we have not seen an excess of influx in new calls since school's been open. So we currently have the 4 different speed signs deployed throughout the city. And we have our officers, we have 4 traffic enforcement officers that we have 3 during the day if they're out enforcing it around the school areas, but they're also enforcing regular complaints that we get throughout the city.
Further question. So when someone is calling us regarding the excessive speed, what is your recommendation that as council members or even citizens, what do we do? Because I know that there's a particular street where there was it wasn't because of speed, but because people were running the stop sign where they had an officer set up who would come and if somebody ran the stop sign, he just run out behind them and give them a ticket. So are there any of those kinds of initiatives that can be done, that are being done with regard to speeding?
Yes, send all the complaints to myself or Lieutenant Whipple, because that's how we deploy our resources each morning. based on new complaints, so we can handle those problems each day. We also work closely with the Governor's Traffic Safety Council, and part of our grant requirement is that we police the areas in which we know as our highest concentration of crashes. So we have 3 different areas in the city, and we use grant funds to police those at different hours. And we also have to show that we're dealing in those areas off grant hours, just in our regular enforcement. So yeah, send all the complaints to us, because we need to know, so Lieutenant Whipple can deploy the resources that we have each day. And if they can be as specific as possible as to when it's occurring, that just helps it even more.
Oh, hold on.
And
You mentioned grant funds. So can the grant funds be used for any type of equipment to reduce speeding?
No, we don't. It's all for enforcement hours.
Okay. So in that case, do any other council members have questions or give input regarding this? Oh, I guess that's up to you to ask Mr. Mudavan. I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. Go ahead. No, I think a good suggestion was brought up there from the PD. This is send our complaints to them so that they can deploy resource and to help bring this under control. I appreciate that.
Okay, there's one other thing I'd like to add, and unfortunately, again, I'm not able to share my screen as I thought I would be able to. But there's also the opportunity, Mayor, for us to, we talked about speed bumps. And I know that the mayor said that's not something that we could do. However, there are removable speed bumps that can be purchased. They're either speed bumps or speed humps. And I'm wondering if that's something that we should consider based on just how bad it's become in the city. And the particular ones I looked at are from a group that's in Lockport. Actually, they're right in New York State. And also, again, it can be put down during the summer months and taken up in the winter. So the concern about the snow plows gets removed. So
well, if you have any of those things, we're more than willing to look at them.
I do, and I was hoping to share actually my screen with you tonight, and unfortunately that's not working out. But in addition to that, it's the ones that I looked at, which I will send to your office. Also, we have concerns because we have emergency vehicles that use our streets, et cetera, and the particular ones are really to consider that fact that there's emergency vehicles that have to go over them, and so it doesn't impede that in any way. So I will definitely send that information to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mudavan.
No problem. Any other comment, suggestion from my colleague? So, Ms. Porterfield, would you like to have this back, or you are comfortable with the information received this evening?
At this point in time, what I'd like to do is I'll share the information with SPD as I receive it from citizens, and I'm going to just so you're aware, going to encourage citizens to really send the information in, because just hearing it from me maybe is not sufficient, and people, we need to come here. It needs to be directly from our residents, and I will definitely forward the information to the mayor so he could take a look at us considering these speed humps, and yes, I would like to have it come back in 2 weeks after I send the information, and maybe we can discuss it again, and then after everyone has an opportunity to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Contact numbers there for people who have complaints to, or where the council members want to refer people back to the department. And again, if you get the name, phone number, email of a person, the address, it makes it easier to follow up and make sure that their concerns are appropriately addressed.
Okay, you can write my name down right now. All right, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, no other comments from my colleagues. We'll move into the next item, and it's discussion on residential parking permit. Myself and Ms. Patrick were not able to provide the necessary backup over the weekend. We submitted late today to my colleagues. So what we'll do, since we are late in submitting these backup documents to help us for discussion on this item, we'll hold this for 2 weeks so that all of us can have an opportunity to review the documents that were submitted. And we'll come back in 2 weeks for further discussion. Ms. Patrick, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, I just, again, just like Ms. Porterfield said, this is in relation to complaints that we've gotten from residents in terms of where they can park versus, you know, having to hourly park by using the new app. So I think that's it. It really brought up the idea of having a residential parking permit system like they have in Albany and other places. So I would ask our fellow council members to please review the information that we did send out so that we can have a discussion in 2 weeks.
Thank you. So we'll have this back in 2 weeks for start our discussion on how we can able to address this. Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
next item is just a placeholder that we've been carrying for several weeks. It's an update from the Police Reform Task Force. I would like to ask Ms. McCarthy, is there any updates you can give to us?
Not a lot has changed since talked 2 weeks ago. We've done the letters. We're getting the names back from the different groups and putting the schedule together actually now for the community meetings, which should be coming out fairly shortly.
Okay, and also there is a task force meeting this Wednesday.
Correct. That's one of the periodic meetings, but from that, hopefully be able to outline when the actual community meetings will be, those dates. So we'll be able to get them on our calendars and start to actually engage more directly with the public.
Thank you. At our last meeting, we had asked that we can help to reach out to some neighborhood association or organization that is not being responsive to the letter that was sent out. Can we help?
In fact, Mr. President, what happened is we met on Monday, and then like Tuesday and Wednesday, there were a number of groups that responded via snail mail as opposed to email, so that where we thought we were, I think, at a little over half, it was actually down to just 2 or 3 groups that had not responded, and so we've done additional outreach to them. So it's actually been a very good response, and appreciate the council's offer to help, but it was the U.S. Postal Service that came through at the end delivering the information we needed.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Motivair, I do have a, yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms.
This
Porterfield.
is kind of close right there. Mayor, could you, I read the letters that you sent to the individuals and we got a copy of that. Could you, it didn't seem to me clear what the individual groups were supposed to do. So specific, the letter went to a neighborhood association. What is the expectation that that neighborhood association will do, if anything, prior to the community meetings being held?
They would designate 2 people to be their representative, and in that time also to talk about concerns they have with the police department, things they have see as opportunities, so that they're able to participate in the community meetings with some level of consensus from the group they represent.
Okay, so as I understand it, then your expectation is that they would have met prior to the first community meeting, let's say, and come prepared with any concerns that that particular group that they're representing has.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Even though
Thank
this
you.
is it's still somewhat of a dynamic process. So I know there's going to be side conversations. There's going to be some of these meetings that are going to take longer than others. And it's how do we move through it and sort out the good things we're doing, the areas that we need improvement on, and then the areas that we can coordinate and better leverage, whether it's just city or community resources to address public safety concerns so that people feel that they're being treated fairly and openly in a manner that meets everybody's expectations.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mudavaren, can I ask one question?
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Mayor, I have had some complaints from folks around the time of these steering committee meetings that some folks can't make them because they're during the day. And, you know, people might be working, some of our younger folks. And I was just wanted to bring that up and see if there's any flexibility in that moving forward.
We've looked at that in the short term. We're looking to keep it on that schedule only because of the overtime that would be incurred by some of the staff and other personnel I'm using to provide support for that organizational structure.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions, comments on this item? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the information. Is there any other business before public safety?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Parlamini.
I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee. The first item is award the bidding contract for the fall demolition to Dan's Hauling and Demolition Inc. in the amount of $184,910 with Mr. Gray.
Yes, so we received 4 bids. The lowest responsible one was Dan's Hauling at $184,900. So we're just asking that you allow us to accept this bid and move to entering a contract with Dan's Hauling.
Are there any questions? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I will second it. All those in favor? Aye.
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. Apologize.
Sorry, I thought you had to step away for a second. Next item on the agenda is to authorize the contract between the City of Schenectady and the Schenectady Job Training Agency with Derek Gugamuk.
Good evening. The city will like to contract with the Schenectady Job Training Agency to fund youth employment under the approved public services youth engagement budget allocated by the CDBG CV portion of the CARES Act. The SJTA will provide employment and comprehensive job readiness training to low-income City of Schenectady youth. Approximately 25 youths will be served, focusing mostly within the Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy area, NRSA. We recommend the city to enter in the contract with SJTA with the funding source of CDBG CV Youth Engagement.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Palomini?
Go ahead.
Mr. Lukema, could you tell us what time frame would the youth be working and the age categories?
Yes, so approximately, I think they're going to be starting soon until December 31st of this year. Age-wise, I believe, let me just double check here. Just bear with me. Unfortunately, I don't have that information in front of me with the age groups, but if you'd like, I could get the information for you and send it over as soon as possible.
Okay. And I have one other question. Where would the youth be working? What type of jobs or what agencies or organizations? Are these private businesses? are these county agencies? Has that been determined yet?
Not yet, but we could get the information and send it over to you if you'd like.
Yes, so, and also all of the funding would come from the city. So for instance, I know that in times past, we talked about if there were private businesses, then the private businesses would also, would pay part of the salary. Or is the entire funding that we're using going to pay for the salary?
The entire funding would go mostly towards the 25 up to 25 youth. So that's approximately the wage plus fringe of 28,000. And then you have the job, you have the coach, the assisting the youth, which is approximately almost $4,700, and the rest goes to program expenses. So the majority of it would help the youth in the city of Schenectady.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mr. Palomini.
Are there any other questions?
I'll move it.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next item is to authorize the contract between the city and the YMCA. Mr. Gugamuk.
Thank you. The city will contract with the YMCA to fund the 2020 summer program under their approved public services youth engagement budget allocated by the CDBG CV portion of the CARES Act. The YMCA provided activities at Jerry Burrell Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. to youths, focusing mostly within the NRSA. The contract amount of $13,320 will provide the necessary funding to the essential programs for the city youth who are directly affected by educational and social impacts as a result of COVID-19. We recommend the city to enter into the contract with the YMCA with funding source CDBG CV Youth Engagement.
Are there any questions? Have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next is a contract between the city and SICM. Mr. Gugamuk.
Thank you. The city will contract with SICM to fund food programs under the approved COVID-19 supplies plus food distribution budget allocated by the CDBG CV portion of the CARES Act. SICM's food pantry provides nutritious groceries to an average of 180 low and moderate income families each week. SICM has been able to provide these services by adjusting operating procedures to comply with NYS, New York State COVID-19 guidelines. The contract amount of $20,037 will provide funding to deliver food safely to low to moderate income families who are directly affected by the economic impacts as a result of COVID-19. We recommend the city to enter into contract with SICM with funding source of CDBG CV COVID-19 supplies and food distribution.
Are there any questions? Have a motion?
Move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And one more, Mr. Gugamuk, a contract between the city and Cocoa House.
Thank you, sir. The city will contract with Cocoa House to fund essential youth services under the approved public services youth engagement budget allocated by the CDBG CV portion of the CARES Act. The Cocoa House will provide needed equipment, 20 iPads, cases, and 4 printers to youths, focusing mostly within the NRSA. The contract amount of $18,000 provide the necessary funding to essential programs for the city youth who are directly affected by the educational social impacts as a result of COVID-19. We recommend the city to enter into contract with the Cocoa House with the funding source of CDBG CV Youth Engagements.
Are there any questions? Have a motion?
I'll
I'll
move
move
it.
it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the update the public on budget hearing dates. So next we'll be talking about the public hearing, which will be October 13th. We have scheduled for the budget meetings October 14th, October 15th, and October 20th. If need be, we can schedule a couple more meetings, but I think we should be able to get through the budget in that time frame. And those are the dates as of yet. Any questions on that?
Mr. Palomini,
Go ahead.
all of these are scheduled for 5:30 in the evening.
Yes, I forgot to say 5:30. Yes. That's it.
That's okay. Yeah, and this item, I asked for it to be placed on the agenda so we can discuss, so the public can be aware of our dates that we have scheduled to meet and to review the budget.
So next is the call for the public hearing for the 2021
Okay, I'm
budget.
sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Palomini. I did have a question. I didn't know that Mr. Mudabaran was finished.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. So, in terms of the meeting updates, we're all, was this sent out to all the department heads and everyone that needed to be notified about that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, specifically, I'm concerned if the clerk's office received the information, because that's the person who dispenses a lot of information to us. And as I noticed, I didn't see, I saw that the clerk was not included on that.
Well,
The clerk's office.
she should have been. If it wasn't, it was certainly an oversight, and she will, if she hasn't gotten a copy, she will get one.
Yes, I'd appreciate that, because I actually called to talk about something, and that's when I realized, when I was looking through, that she had not received it. So that would be helpful, since that is the person who does a lot of work for us. Thank you.
Next is the 2021 budget public hearing, Mr. Ferrari.
Mr. Palomini, I believe that we did a call in September, early September, and a resolution was passed. I think it was resolution number 2148, where the call for a public hearing for October 13 was already set. But once again, we'd like to mention that we're having a public hearing October 13th on the 2021 budget.
Correct. All right. Is there anything further? Can I have a motion to
adjourn.
second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to call to order government operations. We have two items on the agenda. The first agenda item is a discussion regarding business cleanup and garbage can requirements. Mr. Palomini has asked this come on the agenda. Mr. Palomini?
Thank you. Basically, there's been a number of complaints about businesses on some of the streets, such as Albany Street, Van Vranken, Broadway, some Eastern Avenue, where the store shops, people are standing outside throwing their garbage, and there's garbage thrown in front of the businesses. And there's been some discussion at a few of the neighborhood meetings as to, is there an ability for to hold these businesses accountable? Could they be required to have garbage can requirements? I did a little bit of discussion with Mr. Colden, and he's actually prepared to speak further on this. Thank you.
Mr. Colden?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just as an overview, I did speak to Mr. Palomini about it, and I did briefly speak to Mayor McCarthy about this as well. Obviously, we know that in certain areas of the city, litter is an issue. We currently have provisions in our code related, and also the Property Maintenance Code for New York State, related to garbage and litter. Currently, Section 192.15 of the City Code prohibits littering, with penalties of up to $250 for the first offense. Obviously, the issue is catching people in the act of littering to issue the citations. The Property Maintenance Code also has requirements related to the accumulation of rubbish and garbage. There's certainly language in the code that can be used by code enforcement to cite owners of property and people who have control over sidewalks for the accumulation of rubbish and garbage. I did have an opportunity to speak to Avi Epstein earlier today about the accumulation of rubbish and garbage, and I specifically asked him if the Planning Commission in the past has approved site plans with the condition that garbage cans be placed at the exterior of the buildings. His recollection was in the past that has been a condition on certain site plan approvals. It's not always a condition for site plans. In speaking with Mr. Palomini, there's, obviously a concern that, even if we have, we place a requirement that garbage cans be outside a particular type of business, that doesn't obviously necessarily mean that people will use them. So obviously, as it stands right now, I think we have language in our code that we can use. It's a political question, I believe, for the council to take action on whether or not further requirements are necessary.
Mr. Palomini, was there anything else regarding that?
No, I just wanted to bring it to our attention. Maybe this is something that we can continue to discuss and see what we can come up with, if anything. But certainly, if the public knows of businesses or establishments where there's issues, please send them either to us or send them into the code department. I mean, obviously, most of us are out and about and we can see some things, but we're not everywhere. So it's an issue that I think we take seriously and try to address it as best as we can. Thank you.
Mr. Palomini,
You're welcome.
Sorry, may I add one more thing? As Mr. Palomini mentioned, it's great for people to submit, to contact, obviously, the city and code enforcement. I urge people to use the citizen request tracker, when things, when garbage is accumulating, they go by, they see it, let the city know, and, code enforcement can certainly be dispatched out to take a look at the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Colton. And let me just also add and just update people that may not remember that last year, several neighborhoods, I think there were a total of 5, that actually addressed this particular issue around litter and installed garbage cans throughout the neighborhoods. And some went into schools. The Hamilton Hill was one, as well as the North Side. We kind of worked together on some things, going into the schools, talking to the young people about it. So it's an issue certainly that has come up before, and that the neighborhoods have wanted to address. And I understand that, people reporting and then code enforcement going out. I think that unfortunately, it's a problem not just in certain neighborhoods. It's a problem throughout the city. Like, I've never seen it before. I know that several years ago, the mayor was going to the schools and doing presentations with the youth, like It Begins With Me. So while we can definitely go the route of code enforcement, I think that we really, as communities, as neighborhoods, should really try to work a lot more with our citizens to say, hey, this is our neighborhood, let's keep it clean. Like our theme is called Show Love Where You Live. So, we're talking to the neighbors, talking to people about this is where you live, you want to make sure that it's clean. In addition to that, we in Hamilton Hill put out trash cans. We actually had enclosures built where there's and set trash cans inside, and there was a bit of a design flaw with that, because 2 weeks ago we ended up having to actually take those cans out and clean out those enclosures. So as we consider, putting trash cans around, we have to also know that it's going to be more work for our staff to do that, and we want to wait so that they're monitored and not overflowing. They don't become neighborhood trash cans. Somebody comes out of their house with their trash, or maybe even people passing through the neighborhoods and beginning to use that as their trash. So in addition to talking to businesses, I think we want to work with our citizens as well, and just talk to our citizens about keeping our city clean, not just particular neighborhoods, our city. We know that downtown looks pretty good most of the time, but there are many other neighborhoods that are suffering from the problem of chronic litter, is what I'll have to call it. So I agree that we need to keep moving forward on that. But just to remind folks, there are initiatives through neighborhood associations, and I think we should begin to reach out again to those 5 neighborhood associations that we're working on a project and see how we can work together to, put more information out there about that. Is there any other comments about the litter and trash cans?
Yeah, Ms. Porterfield?
Yes.
Sorry. I think they did a great job with Mount Pleasant, expensive crash cans that were put out. there was lots of, the community definitely was involved and definitely was supportive of it. I agree with you. I think if we can engage more of the community neighbors, and if we could have more cans put around, I think it will help with dispensing a lot of the trash that's throughout the city. I also think that we should, commend the mayor on the fact that he has the street sweepers coming around right after the trash collection. I actually saw it today when I was driving through Woodlawn. So I know that, the trash collection and the fact that we have the street sweepers coming in after that certainly does help. And I agree, we should have some more educational programs with the children. I mean, I remember when I was younger, and don't be a litter bug. And I think it's not a bad thing to have something like that come back. And I would be very supportive of it. Maybe we could start with the elementary schools.
Yeah, well, because right now most children are children above the elementary level, I should say, are being are virtual, most of them, a little bit of hybrid. And so actually, our trash cans, because of COVID, didn't get out. We're just in the process of putting them out with signs. We're not using the litter bug sign, but we are using signs on them. So we are moving forward with that. So let's see if we can work with the school district and try to have folks come in or somehow do it, that we can bring this educational piece to the children. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is a discussion about backyard chickens. I'll turn it over to Ms. Patrick and Mr. Mudavaren.
Thank you. Well, we've got the chicken issue is back on our agenda to consider. We know that Niskayuna had passed legislation regarding this. So we have sent around Albany and Niskayuna's resolutions. We've also received some information from Ms. Pepper regarding, I think, what they had submitted last time before I was on council to discuss. So I would like everybody to please review those so that we can come back together in 2 weeks and have this discussion at our next committee meeting.
Mr. Mudavaren?
Yeah, thank you. Also, yes, thank you, Ms. Patrick, for mentioning that. Yes, we were not, we had an opportunity to send all the information over the weekend. It was sent late today. So it was a discussion item, and we'll keep this back. Fortunately, we have two individuals who were able to join us here this evening, who are champions for this item, Ms. Pepper and Mr. Chad Putman. So I will ask them to kind of, each one there, Ms. Porterfield, if you allow me, to ask them to kind of give us a brief summary of expectation on this item. And we can start with Mr. Putman or Ms. Ellie Pepper.
Chad?
Ellie, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to start with kind of like a broad overview of, chicken backyard hens in general, and a little bit about how we have engaged with them at Schenectady Urban Farms. So just generally, chickens are really good for the environment. They serve as great composters for your kitchen scraps. They're more than happy to feast on, that overripe apple that you didn't get to, or that stale piece of bread, which means a lot less food waste. And then, as many of you know, I'm sure that chicken poop is really the gold standard for fertilizer. So anybody with a home garden that has backyard chickens will see a definite increase in their harvest when using the chicken poop. The other really great thing about chickens is they eat ticks, mosquitoes, slugs, beetles. They're a great way for kids to learn about nature and agriculture and the responsibility of caring for animals. Backyard chicken eggs are more nutritionally beneficial, not to mean tastier. They're higher in vitamin E and omega-3s and beta-carotene. than their supermarket counterparts, and they're much lower in cholesterol. You know, I have heard a couple of times about issue with maybe they're loud. You know, in Niskayuna, and I believe in Albany, there's no roosters allowed. Roosters are really where most of the noise might come from. Even they aren't that loud, but you wouldn't hear the cock-a-doodle-doo every morning if there were no roosters. But the other thing to say is chickens are quieter than dogs. The noise level of the squawk for egg laying is up to 70 decibels at the very loudest. And that's about the same volume as a normal conversation between two people, and in the same range of noise volume that's made by an air conditioner or a washer or a flush toilet. That's really as loud as they get. Lawnmowers and barking dogs register around 90 to 100 decibels, so that's much louder than a few hens. You know, I talked about this last year, and I'll mention it again, that chickens really do provide stress relief. They are used, they've been being used with autistic children in helping them really learn how to interact. They're used with elderly people with dementia. And then personally, last year, I had gone through a pretty significant bout of chronic pain, and being able to spend time with the chickens, I just can't even tell you how much that helped me get through that. You know, they distracted me. They jumped in my lap. They pecked at my shoes. You know, they're just a delight to spend time with. And at the farm, I will say they've been located, I think as many of you know, at our Vale location. And this year, unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't been able to really have the farm open to the general public as much as we have in the past. But I'll just tell you that the children love the chickens. They love to come in and get into the coop and into the run and hang out with the chickens. I just would like the council, particularly at this time, to consider further the idea of allowing for, you know, a few backyard chickens within the city limits at this time when it's more important than ever for us to be self-sustainable and have access to our own food. And I have to say that I was part of an egg CSA with a local farmer, and he actually had to refund me because he was not able to provide the demand for eggs. I don't think that we'd be taking anything away from any local farmers. And with that, I'll kind of hand it over to Chad for him to add a few notes about the wonderful nature of chickens.
Great job, Ellie. Thank you. And thank you to the City Council for taking up this item for further discussion. I just wanted to just speak a little bit about the history and context in relation to the Val Urban Farm hens. It was back in March of 2018, so coming up on 3 years, that with the blessing of Corporation Council at that time, and also working with the leadership of the Val Urban Farm, that my husband Ciro and I acquired 12 little chicks in the month of March that we raised on our kitchen countertop. And slowly they graduated to a bigger and bigger pool and little coop. But they moved into our basement and then into our garage. And as the weather got warmer, in about 3 months, they were about full size. And within 4 months, they were laying eggs. And we relocated them from our home over to the Val Urban Farm. And it was soon after they got relocated to the farm that we realized that one of them was a rooster. So with the help of some friends, we got that rooster relocated to a farm out in the country. And that left us with 11 hens who remained with us through the summer. And then because the Val Urban Farm doesn't have running water or electric, at least through the winter months, we had to make arrangements so that myself and Spiro could foster the chickens over the winter. And then half of them came to our house and the other half went to Sharon's house. Over that winter, we did lose 2 chickens. A couple raccoons got to them and they passed away. And then this past summer, when the hens ended up back at the farm, we did have one that was getting henpecked and wasn't doing so well. So we relocated her out to a friend's house out in Boston Spa. So, and then just this past summer, we also lost one of the hens. So we had 12 and we're down to 7. We're coming up on 3 years, so that's not too bad. They tend to live anywhere from 5 to 7 years. And the older they get, the slower their egg production is. But I can certainly say that, you know, in the winter months, we have to do all we can to share eggs with our neighbors. We certainly, Spiro and I, cannot eat as many eggs as we get from there was 9 chickens last winter. It's 7, it'll be 7 this year. So our neighbors certainly appreciate it. I just want to also add that the hens are a great resource for eating up food waste. So anytime we have any kind of vegetables, fruit, for better or worse, they do love fettuccine. They do taste sweet and they like salt. They really like the pasta. Probably not the healthiest thing to give them, but you know, we did discover that they enjoy that. So we do spoil them every now and then, and I buy frozen corn and I let it melt and I give it to them when I go and visit with them. But we have a number of folks at the farm that have volunteer. I would say we probably have close to a dozen individuals who are part of the farm with their children that come out and help make sure that the hens have access to clean water and food every day. And they just love to spoil them with all kinds of different great food that the hens really enjoy the company and whatnot. So, but while I had you all tonight, I figured, and I was home, I would pop out just so you can get a little sense of what the setup is like at home when you think about having backyard chickens. So I just came out the back of the house, and I'm on the corner of Kings and Greeley, and we live on a corner lot. But I don't know that I can turn my camera around, but I'm just gonna kind of show you here. So this is the chicken coop that we have in our backyard. I acquired it from a local builder. It was a little expensive, but I wanted to treat him well. It is insulated. It's got a window and it's got a little hen box here where you can open up and get the eggs out and whatnot. They love to watch people, especially when it's snowing. They're not a huge fan of being out in the snow, but they do like to be able to look out and see what's going on. As it stands right now, I'm going to just kind of walk back here so you can get a better sense. This is the garden in the summer, but in the winter time, what we do is we put a fence and a net over top of it. And so that's the chicken run. That's where the chickens stay throughout the winter. And then when it comes summertime, we move them over to the farm, and then we get all kinds of great vegetables from the Class A fertilizer we get from the hens all winter. So I just wanted to give you a little context so you could kind of see the setup. But these are, you know, based on the hens that we foster through the winter. And, you know, if the city council is able to revise the city code and make it more backyard friendly for neighborhood residents, you know, this is something that could be sustainable for folks throughout the year. We have a number of folks when we do have the hens that stop by and ask us about what the law is in the city and having hens and how it works and whatnot. So we try and use it as an educational tool. And we have lots of neighborhood kids that like to come up and visit with the hens as well. So it's really been a great way to get to know your neighbors, to have a positive impact on our local community, and have some really great eggs and get rid of a lot of vegetables that are going bad. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Chad. Mr. Mudavera and Ms. Patrick, what are you asking at this moment?
Thank you, Ms. Porterfield. So I just want to thank Chad and Ellie for that brief summary presentation from Chad. Ms. Porterfield, since we have submitted some backup to help for the discussion late today, we'll ask that we hold this for 2 more weeks so that everyone can have an opportunity to review what the other municipalities have in place and to be able to give us a better understanding of what we need to move forward with this discussion.
Okay, so all right, so that's fine. We look at what was submitted to us by Chad and Ellie, and then come bring it back in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, if we have any, if anyone has any questions regarding the what was submitted, where should they do their questions?
Yeah.
Any council member that has questions.
Ms. Porterfield, if I may, and just to add to that, Chad, Ellie, myself, and Ms. Patrick and I will reach out to both of you if we need further information.
Sounds good.
All right. Are there any other questions regarding this, the backyard chickens? Oh, all right. If not, thanks again, Chad and Ellie. And if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, government ops. I guess me is a good person, Mr. Kosher. So I guess we're
So moved.
adjourned.
Second on this, Carmel.
I'm sorry.
I beg your pardon?
Isn't Ms. Patrick in this?
Ms. Patrick,
Yes.
Okay.
did you say motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Okay. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I want to open City Development and Planning, and I want to start with the Bethesda House option agreement for 1917 State Street. And I believe this is under the mayor. So, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Earlier this year, the council granted an option to Bethesda House for 917 State Street. It's been a project we've been working on for quite a period of time. That actually came about the first part of March or mid-March, just as COVID was evolving and really shutting everything down. As a result of that, the grant application that Bethesda House was seeking, the deadlines got moved out on that. And it's a criteria that they have to have an option that extends for 6 months beyond the deadline for the grant, so that if they are awarded the grant, they can actually implement it. And so what I'm asking the council to do is really just extend that option that was granted before through the end of the year, so that they can now apply for the money that they were originally going to seek that was delayed as a result of COVID.
Does anyone have any?
The details of the project are in your packet. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, yes, Mayor, if you could just clarify, when is their grant application deadline? Or has it passed?
No, it's coming up. I have all the dates except that one. I want to say it's the end of this month is the deadline for them to apply, where it was originally back really in March or April.
Okay, and then you said they needed 6 months after their deadline? Doesn't that
correct? So it would be 6 months after the deadline to apply. I know it's hard for anybody to believe that sometimes government doesn't move as fast as we would like. So I've asked the council to grant the option through the end of 2021.
Okay, right. I thought you were saying the end of 2020. That's why I was trying to get clear. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I believe that all of the rest of the items on the agenda need to be in executive session. If Mr. Coleman could confirm that for me?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I apologize to interrupt, that they're actually just told that the full extension date is through August 1st of 2021 for that funding, as opposed to some of the paperwork before you has December 31st. But so the deadline for the grant is August 1st, but asking for the end of the year to make sure we can hopefully get it off the ground, get it built this time.
So does that motion cover us, or do we need to extend it if you want it 6 months?
The paperwork before you is through December 31st. The specific question to Councilmember Porterfield is the deadline is August 1st of 2021.
Okay. So we're good if we're approved through the end of next year, correct, Mr. Mayor?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Colden, you said that everything else needs to be done in executive session?
Yes, it has to do with transfers of property to
Contracts. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session,
So moved.
and I will second, and I will see everyone on the next call. Thank you very much.